Hey Internet, Scolo here. This is essentially going to be a response to someone who is not me. So apparently I'm just going to get into another argument between the theists and the atheists and, straddle that middle ground again. The issue comes down to one of evidence and what is accepted as evidence and the methods of logic used, inductive versus deductive. I do believe that inductive logic does have a place at times, but you only want to infer things when you absolutely have to and when you have no other option, because inference only provides you with probabilities. Up to about, let's say, 2 years ago, every Israeli I had ever met was an asshole. Therefore, I had inferred, much to my own chagrin, because I knew it was false, that all Israelis were assholes. I have since met an Israeli who wasn't an asshole, thus proving that inference false. However, based on my own personal experience, the likelihood that all Israelis were assholes from a relatively random set of experiences, you could have some support. Deductively, on the other hand, it's kind of hard to deductively prove that all Israelis are assholes. It's usually much easier to say it is likely that something exists, but it can be certain that some things do not. Seeing how this is apparently an argument between atheism and, say, Christianity, a good argument for Christianity, short of God himself coming down with golden plates, a la Angel Moroni, and saying, hey, here, everybody, here's golden plates, proof of my existence, that have been, have been absolutely unworked, and so on and so forth. And even then, people could possibly argue that God is some sort of alien, but anyway, that would be, say, scientific evidence of Christianity's existence. Scientific support for Christianity's existence would be if any of the stories in the Bible showed any sort of evidence to indicate their validity, sort of like the Iliad. Now, we know that the Iliad, there's still probably, Apollo and Athena probably still weren't running around, but we know that there probably was a Troy, and there certainly was a war there, because there are some ruined cities where Troy was supposed to be as described by Homer. Meanwhile, for, say, the parting of the Red Sea, if the Red Sea itself, and not some little dinky salt lake, had been all marshy, if the Red Sea had split, right? If somewhere in the Red Sea we found the remains of Egyptian chariots known to be in the use of the pharaohs at that time, then there you go, evidence of the parting of the Red Sea. Because why else would there be a bunch of chariot wreckage right there? That would be considered evidence. In the same way that the Trojan ruins are evidence of a battle of Troy. If the large object on Mount Ararat really is an ark, which it does not appear to be, if it really was some sort of large wooden structure, that would be evidence of some sort of ark for some sort of ark story. Now, is the ark, as described, physically large enough to carry all kinds of animals that breathe through their nostrils? And yes, insects breathe through nostrils. They're called spiracles. They have them along the ridges of their carapaces, where plates meet. But if that was, then yes, that would be evidence, as generally acceptable to atheists, because they are working off of the materialistic concept of the null hypothesis being the disbelief or the lack of existence of something. Unicorns don't exist until you find one. Jackalopes don't exist until you find them in the wild and they're known to exist. Centaurs, same thing. Aliens don't exist until we have evidence of a phaser. Yeah, I got a Wrath of Khan phaser. I'm quite proud of it. Oh, I didn't put a setting. But anyway, there we go. Much better. Anyway, all about that. Meanwhile, theists have their own internal logic systems and internal, primarily inductive logic that they can use to support their belief. But at that point, it's either probability or personal truth. I'm a strict believer in personal truth. If it makes you feel better about your place in the universe, shut up. If it makes you feel better about your place in the universe, good. That's your personal truth. If you don't have evidence to suggest it's objective, I sincerely think that you should not suggest it to be objective. You can say, this truth works for me, perhaps it will work for you, hence allowing for some proselytization, but if it doesn't work for the other person, you are infringing upon their rights by trying to push it. Now likewise, this kind of goes for atheists as well, because the null hypothesis is effective as a descriptor of, of the world given a few assumptions, but it does not necessarily equate to philosophical truth. See previous video. Therefore, because it could be philosophically, Christianity could, for the sake of argument, be philosophically true because God is a very, very strange entity, then, at that point, if this person's belief structure influences them and makes them feel better about where they are in the universe, and it doesn't really affect you, then let it be. Yeah, I know things have been done in the name of Christianity and in the name of religion. They've been done in the name of every ideology, and you can't kill ideologies. Sorry, end of. Religions go through life cycles. There's a reason why no one believes in, practically no one believes in the Norse gods, or the Hellenic gods, or the Egyptians' gods anymore. And there is probably going to be a point in the future where no one will believe in the Abrahamic gods, or the Hindu gods, or the Shinto gods either. It might take thousands of years, but that's the life cycle of ideology. Or it might last forever, who knows. But using that inductive reasoning, it's all religions up till now, up to the ones that exist currently, have been essentially false or discarded. Therefore, all religions that exist now are probably false and will be discarded at time. That's less important than how it influences people to be. Just be decent to one another. Argue as much as you want, but be decent to one another. That's all I insist. Which is especially important if there is no God, and there is no impartial universal arbiter of justice, and we are the ones who decide what is right and wrong. Then we should decide what is right in terms of how we influence others and how we make others happy and make others feel fulfilled, and sort of a universal service sort of idea. And then we don't have a God to tell us, okay, do this, that, and the other. We have only us. And it comes up to us. It's our job to be decent to one another. And so, that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to be decent to one another. Everybody out there, just, I know everyone thinks it's super important, but take a deep breath, relax, and even if they're annoying, just, if the other side annoys you, just all the more be decent to them, because we're all operating within the bounds of our own understanding. Anyway, that was Skolopendra. That was my lecture to you all. I'm not gussying this up with anything, so I'm just going to upload it, then I'm going to play Star Trek Online. I'm going to blow up some Klingons, because that's what the Federation does. See ya, Internet.